celebrating a victory last night by my beloved Chicago Cubs in the National League Division Series, knocking off the St. Louis Cardinals. As a Cubs fan, you become accustomed to losing, and you're trying to change that habit into a winning habit. And that's the focus of tonight's Soapbox, is winning and losing. Now, last night was an awesome feeling to watch a team that I pulled for so long, who struggled for so many years, win a division champion or division series in Wrigley Field, let alone anywhere else. Winter native Dan Dietz was at that game in the right field bleachers, provided some pretty awesome photos of that. But it was just a neat feeling to see a team that I pulled for be able to achieve that. And a long ways to go against a very good team in the NLCS, and then another great team in the World Series, hopefully. But we'll see how it goes. But let's talk about winning and losing a little bit. You know, one of my heroes in life is Green Bay Packers head coach Vince Lombardi, who is famous for making the statement that winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. Now, more interviews with Lombardi would reveal that what his real statement there was, that the effort and preparation to win was the most important thing. And if you know anything about Coach Lombardi, he was an obsessive compulsive person that really wanted everything just so. He wanted to make sure that every scenario had been practiced, everything that could happen had been examined by his team and his players. And the preparation for him to win was what drove him. The victories sure were important to him, but making sure that he had his team prepared to the best of his ability, what made him the coach he was, and also probably his greatest weakness at the same time, that fear of losing and fear of not being prepared. Now, the tradition of winning in winter, especially in football, is a lot the same. We have a very strong winning tradition here, and we're very proud of that, and we should be. We've had we've had 5 decades of winning football, going on 5 decades, which is an amazing streak. Going back to 1970, when Harvey Nas took the helm as the head football coach of the Winter Warriors, we've had just 5 losing seasons, and only once in that stretch were there back-to-back losing seasons. Really, there's been 3 winning runs in the history of winter football. The 1922 to 1936 teams, all with winning records, a bulk of that with Coach Arnold Schaefer, some with Coach H.O. Bailey, and they had a very strong run in that era. We had a nice run right after World War II as well, the late 40s, early 50s. I believe there was 8 consecutive winning seasons. And I'm just going to lump up the entire 1970 to current really under one group, because it's pretty much been consistent with that winning tradition since 1970. Again, just 5 losing seasons in that time frame. We've had dedicated athletes, we've had dedicated coaches, and we've had a community that has really taken pride and taken a part in that tradition, especially since the Dome era has taken hold starting in 1981. We've made winning football a priority here in winter. We've made it so kids can get to fall camp, can be able to maintain a job hauling groceries, but still keep their spot on the football team. And we've made it a priority that, farm families have said, okay, we'll let you out of Milo harvest, but, you're going to have to work extra hard on Saturday because you're putting in time during the week. Those kind of sacrifices are real sacrifices that are all made in the direction of keeping a winning football program here and being a part of that program. Nobody wants to be a part of the group that lets that tradition down. You go back to that 04 squad, the only losing season that Coach Aker has in that era. Any of the teams that had those losing records, I'm sure there's a thought that, gosh, we didn't live up to those expectations. And that can be positive peer pressure as well, because you don't want to be the group that lets it down. Last year, I had a great football team, but losing in the first round was a real shock to everybody. Now the sun came up just fine the next morning. It was a loss to a game. It was a loss in a game, not a loss in real life. And we'll get to that more in couple minutes. We have a really good football team this year, folks, but we still have a lot to prove. People may question our schedule. They may question our youth and the fact that there aren't a lot of seniors on our team. And it's now up to us to prove that, to show that part of being a winning tradition here in winter is to carry through. And it's that time of year. Playoffs are right around the corner. Volleyball districts right around the corner, regions, pardon me, right around the corner. I believe cross-country regionals are tomorrow. The fall seasons are starting to wrap up, and that means postseason. And that means pressure on these kids is really cranked up. As a Cubs fan, I know losing too. Let's talk about losing a little bit. A lot of years of losing baseball as a Cubs fan. But I also know that losing can become an expectation as a Cubs fan. I also know that it can become a learned pattern really until it's broken. And I hope that for the Cubs that pattern is starting to be broken. But these are losses in games. These aren't losses in real life. Hopefully losses in games can help these kids prepare for real losses down the road. These are kids that we watch on Friday nights on the football field, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays on the volleyball courts. And as we get into the winter sports, basketball, wrestling, these are kids that we watch and that we pull for. But let's not lose sight of the fact that they're kids. They're kids with zits. They're kids with algebra quizzes. They're kids that forget to turn lights off, forget to lock their car doors, that they're somebody's son, and they're somebody's grandson, and somebody's big brother or big sister. Okay? These are kids. Let's keep that in perspective, that if things don't go well and we lose a ball game, it's not one person's fault. And everybody makes those efforts and preparations, but sometimes things don't just go the way that you want them to. Like I said, the sun will still come up tomorrow morning. We don't want to be on the losing end of things ever. As a competitive person myself, I don't like to lose. But at the same time, I also understand that things can be learned from that you can learn humility, that you can learn what you want to do to make sure you don't put yourself in that spot again. And I talked about real loss. I have a close friend who has a son that's playing for Sioux Falls, Washington. Lost his grandpa on Monday night. That's a real loss. And maybe the struggles of the last couple seasons with Sioux Falls, Washington, who's off to a great start this year, but maybe the struggles and the ups and downs of losing a few football games can maybe help them through this week and know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And my thoughts go out to my friend Jeff and his family in their time of loss. And I hope that somewhere down the road that, like I said, that the preparation of losing maybe a game can better help somebody for the ups and downs in the real world as well. Same thing with the community of Platte. That's real loss. What that community's experienced and what they continue to experience as investigations go on, those are real world problems, not a game, nothing that's played out. These are real world issues. So, and I think that's the greatest lesson that can be learned from athletics, winning or losing, is that you learn to bounce back. You learn to move forward. You can't just hang out your head and mull and lurk in loss. You can't just celebrate victory and live in that, try to live in that moment. You got to move forward with it. Enjoy it, savor it, appreciate it, but understand that the sun comes up and the world keeps going no matter the results of any ball game, win or loss. So as we near postseason, enjoy the wins as they come. But again, don't forget that these are games. I'm going to be pulling for our Warriors and our Lady Warriors to win as many games as they can, to go as far as they can, to have as much success as they can. I'm also going to be proud of each one of those kids individually for their commitment to what they've done and to their families for what they've done. It's a great achievement to be a little part of any group, any team. And we've got a lot of great groups and teams in Winter High School, as well as every other school in the state that they can be proud of. We've got a choir program. My daughter will be going to all-state choir here in a couple weeks, and I'm proud of her and the time that she's put into that. You know, we have kids that are golfing. We have kids that are running cross country. We have kids in FFA that are going to be going to national convention and representing Winter High School. It's great to be a part of that, and it's great to be able to represent your school in that way. So let's let kids be kids. Don't put losses on one person, and give our kids an opportunity to represent Winter High School to the best of their abilities. All right, there you go. Wins and losses. Let's talk about 5 games that you should be watching, and then of course we're going to preview Winter and Redfield Dolan. 5 games to watch. First one, and I keep talking about 9AA, but it's a monster class and one worth watching. Woolsey Wessington at Wessington Springs, Sanborn Central, Woonsocket. I'm sorry, I got confused with all the W's. Woolsey Wessington at Woonsocket, Wessington Springs, Sanborn Central. If you go north of Mitchell, I think about 30 miles or so, pretty much everybody's going to be at this football game, and they should be. Number 1 and number 2 in 9AA. They've run a gauntlet already. Both of these teams have played some great teams. Both of them have beaten Gregory just down the road, another top contender in 9AA. This one should be a great game and one that everybody should be keeping track of. Again, some playoff implications. Certainly, somebody's going to lose some power points as a result of this one, and probably end up maybe traveling as a second round team. But I assure you that these teams will be in the Final Four in 9AA as well. You go out west, Belfouche at St. Thomas More, normally and traditionally one of the best Black Hills Conference games of the year. Belfouche off to a really nice start, kind of in a situation like Winter where they didn't control who was on their schedule, have beaten some teams that maybe some people might say a little bit weaker. Thomas More with a big win over Roncalli. It's going to be a good football game, though, and 2 teams that really get up to play each other. You know, probably number 1 on their rivalry list out there in the Black Hills Conference for Black Hills and St. Thomas More, that game in Rapid City. West Central at Tri-Valley, 2 monsters of the last 25 years in high school football. 2 of the best programs in the state. I don't think that there's any hesitation in saying that. Tri-Valley, West Central, there's just probably almost 20 state championships between those 2 schools, 15 at least. Great programs. And playoff implications for both teams. West Central at Tri-Valley. Tri-Valley 4-2 right now, but they close the season with 2 really tough games. They could actually kind of end up on the bubble here. But I'm sure Tri-Valley is going to be in the playoffs, and I'm sure they're going to be ready to go come end of October. Sioux Valley at McCook Central Montrose. Now there's another big 11B matchup worth keeping an eye on. Sioux Valley, a team that's playing a little better football as the year goes on. McCook Central Montrose has lost to some really good football teams. Now, if McCook Central Montrose can get the win here, really going to shake things up as far as the overall playoff picture. This one will be worth keeping an eye on. I'm not going to be surprised at all to see the McCook Central Montrose pull out a win in this one. And then the 5th one, and I kind of debated this one with Jody, Roncalli at Chamberlain. The second ranked, and of course you folks know my opinion on Bulls, the second ranked Aberdeen Roncalli Cavaliers facing the number 3 ranked Chamberlain Cubs. Now, I think that Roncalli is in a cut above that class. I think that Roncalli and Winter and a few other teams are in a league above some of the other 11B squads, and Chamberlain Cubs prove me wrong. I think that they've come a long ways, and I think they're a program on the rise under the leadership of Coach Rhodes. But I think Roncalli's been there, and I think Roncalli's going to stay there. So Chamberlain Cubs, prove me wrong, and go out and give it your best. I'm going to be interested to see how that one comes out. Now, Winter Warriors, Redfield Dolan Pheasants. Redfield Dolan, this will be their last game of the season. They come in with a 1-6 record. They really need this win to be able to try to stay alive and keep a chance of making the playoffs. Redfield Dolan, a team that likes to do a lot of different things, is according to Coach Aker, will show us a lot of different looks on defense. We'll do some different things on offense as well. For winter, the whole key to the game is going to be keep the foot on the gas and keep doing what you're doing. Warriors have been extremely effective in all facets of the football game. Offense has been running like a finely tuned machine, averaging almost 10 yards a pop. Defense has just been stellar. The physicality and the overall speed and quickness of our defense has just been fun to watch, and we've had some big special teams plays in the last few weeks as well. That's kind of coming to be. Kudos to Jonas Brill with the 37-yard field goal. Young man was pretty excited about that, and another weapon that Coach Aker can have in his arsenal as the playoffs come around. 37-yard field goal, and he had a few extra yards on it. Not in that West Dvorak range from last year, but still a nice kick by Brill, and it'll be interesting to see if that opportunity presents itself down the road. So, the 5 games to watch, as we said: Woolsey Wessington at Woonsocket, Wessington Spring Sanborn Central in 9AA. 11A's Belfouche at St. Thomas More. 11A West Central at 11B Tri-Valley. 11B Sioux Valley and McCook Central Montrose. And then 11B Roncalli and Chamberlain. And then our Winter Warriors and the Redfield Dolan Pheasants. We will be bringing you that game, of course, on winterwarriorslive.com. Pre-game will start at about 6:25. Marty Peterson and I will be on the call, bringing the game to you. Game will start at about 7 o'clock. If you aren't making the trip to Redfield, if you've got folks in town for pheasant season, if you've got family in town, if you just can't make the trip, we're going to be proud to be bringing that game to you, and we invite you to join us for the game. We are proud of our Winter Warriors, folks, and we are proud of our Winter Lady Warriors. Keep going strong, and I'm proud of my Cubs as well. Plow on, my friends. Good night.